dance, folklorico, mariachi, banda, and more. Children were also treated to face painting at the family-friendly festival. City council members and members of the public in council chambers last week got a preview of the 17th annual Central Avenue Jazz Festival when performers gave audiences a little taste of what the festival is all about. And among the performers was Donto James, musician and the son of late jazz great Etta James.
Each year on the last weekend of July, we celebrate homegrown talent and jazz greats, blues, and Latin jazz with this free music festival that attracts over 35,000 people over the two-day weekend.
The annual event highlights the rich culture and heritage of Central Avenue, or the Avenue, as it was known during its heyday from the 1920s to the 1940s. And now that you've had a little taste of the festival, reporter Saida Pagan takes us to Central Avenue for the real deal, the 17th annual Central Avenue Jazz Festival, where folks from all corners of the city came out to experience the summertime tradition.
Music lovers from all over Los Angeles gathered on Central Avenue recently, listening to smooth jazz from a variety of local artists. The historic Dunbar Hotel on 42nd and Central served as the perfect backdrop for this year's festivities. The music, the food, and the fun were all part of LA's yearly tribute to the rich culture of Central Avenue. The Avenue, as it is known, has a musical tradition dating back to the 1920s and is considered to be the birthplace of West Coast jazz. LA City Council member Jan Perry helped make the event possible.
Right now we have the Los Angeles Unified School District Youth Jazz Band playing on stage, and the seats are filling up. There's lots of good food, lots of vendors.
Council member Perry's office partnered with a nonprofit coalition for responsible community development to put on this free weekend-long festival.
Lovely time, really enjoying it.
Enjoying the music, food.
Can't wait to recommend it to my friends.
A highlight of the jazz tribute was this giant display. It shows pictures of area residents who have lived or worked around Central Avenue over the years. Organizers say all of this is a testament to the unifying power of music. For LA This Week, I'm Saida Pagan.
Dozens of private, public, and nonprofit sponsors joined forces to make the festival possible. They included the LA Department of Cultural Affairs, the LA Conservation Corps, NBC Universal, and Coca-Cola. And in this week's list of things to do, an event at the zoo for adults, the Queen of Cabaret at the Bowl, and Olympics for kids hosted by a local museum. Zoos aren't just fun for kids. There's something for everyone, young and old. On Friday, August 10th from 6 to 10 p.m., the zoo is holding its Brew at the Zoo event for those 21 and older. This special event allows zoo guests to tour some of the zoo's most popular habitats, including the new Lair exhibit, while sampling beer from local breweries. Upon arrival, zoo guests will receive a 4.5-ounce collectible sample glass with 14 tickets to exchange for samples. There will also be live entertainment, including musical performances, stand-up comedy, and music from local radio stations. Tickets are expected to sell out and should be purchased ahead of time by going to lazoo.org/brew. The spectacular icon of stage and screen, the Queen of Cabaret, Liza Minnelli, returns to the Hollywood Bowl for a special one-night-only appearance on Saturday, August 11th at 8 p.m. The winner of Tonys, Golden Globes, a Grammy, an Emmy, and an Oscar, Minnelli commands the stage with ultimate showbiz star power. The Hollywood Bowl is located at 2301 North Highland Avenue, Hollywood, but you are encouraged to take shuttles to the bowl. For shuttle and ticket information, go to hollywoodbowl.com. London may be the host of the 2012 Summer Olympics, but locally, the Japanese American National Museum is playing host to the Japanese American Olympics on Saturday, August 11th, which will feature fun Japanese American games. You'll get to take part in a Jankenpo or rock, paper, scissors tournament, basketball free throw contest, and an origami design contest. There will even be a medals ceremony. The event from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. is part of the museum's 14th annual Summer Festival on the Courtyard, and is being held in conjunction with the museum's exhibition, Folding Paper, The Infinite Possibilities of Origami. The Japanese American National Museum is located at 100 North Central Avenue in Little Tokyo. More info can be found at janm.org. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do. It's hard to get off the couch sometimes and to get moving. That's why one city leader is making it harder for you to say no by enticing you with the scenic bike ride of our city and an ice cream treat. Cyclists ring in an annual summer tradition. The man at the helm, Councilman Tom LaBonge, leads what he calls Tour LaBonge every summer, a series of bike rides through different parts of the city that lets people see their neighborhoods on two wheels.
Good for your health, number one, and then you see the city in such a way that you don't see driving or even walking. It's a beautiful way to see the city.
On this night, cyclists young and old met up in front of Roosevelt Municipal Golf Course, south of the Greek Theater, to embark on a 2-hour bike ride. And they rode in style with LAPD escorts.
We got excellent support from LAPD, and we have our bike officers here.
It was fun. We were covered all the time by policemen, so it was cool.
The hills proved tough for some participants.
It was tiring. Lots of hills, up and down.
But not to worry.
Well, we got a ride for the last quarter, so we're feeling fine.
Backup vehicles were available to offer a lift to those in need. And at the end of it all, a reward of popsicles and ice cream bars for everyone. But the real treat for many was the ride itself.
We ended up by the LA River, and it was pretty nice down there. The river was clean, cleaner than I have seen it in a long time. And they've done a lot of work on it, and it made it a nice bike ride. I'd do it again.
Another convert to what city leaders hope will turn into a way of life for all Angelenos. Riders must be at least 12 years of age, and everyone must wear a helmet. There is one more ride left this summer. To find out, go to tomlabonge.com. That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
School starts early this year.
Tell your mom and dad.
On August 14th.
Don't forget, LAUSD starts school on August 14th. On August 14th. See you there.
Saving energy is simple. It even saves you money. Replace incandescent light bulbs with compact fluorescent bulbs. Set your thermostat to 78 degrees or higher in the summer. Weather seal your home. When replacing old appliances, select Energy Star qualified appliances that are up to 40% more efficient, and unplug electronic devices when not in use. Visit ladwp.com for more energy-saving tips and information. Save energy, save money.
Don't worry, Patty. This isn't going to hurt me one bit. Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Shapiro in beautiful Encino, and you're watching LA City View, Channel 35. Our city, our channel. Open wide.
Good morning. Today is August 7th. I want to welcome you to your Los Angeles City Council chambers, to our meeting. We meet every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Members of the public are definitely welcome. I think what we want to do at this point in time is begin. Mr. Labange, are you ready for the presentation portion of today's council session?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning. I want to welcome the Bob Marley family here to Los Angeles City Hall. I'm with Joe Buscaino. It's great to see you. It's great to be here. I just came from a committee meeting, and we're trying to save the city park pools and keep them open and many other things that we're trying to do. But this is Bob Marley Day in Los Angeles, and there's so much history to your father and what he has done internationally around the world. It's so special, and it's exciting. And bring the whole family in here. They got a bunch of cameras. Let you get in the pictures. And, Joe, I want you to say a few words, too, because Big Joe loves Bob Marley.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. What a great day in the city of Los Angeles to celebrate Bob Marley, someone who, as a kid, listened to his music, my sisters and I, and what Bob Marley has done to not only this country, but his own country as well. He brought people together in times of trouble. When the country was divided, his music brought people together. I had the opportunity to see the documentary on your dad, and it was real refreshing and enlightening to hear the stories of how much of an impact Bob Marley had with his people and his music as well. I'm about to break out into song right now. I don't know if that's safe or not.
I want to get that
All
music
right.
going, but look, here's the
Let's do this.
combination.
There it is, right here.
Wait a minute, Joe. As long as you don't sing "I Shot the Sheriff."
I won't do that.
Here, I want you to do the
How
first
about a little?
three. Start the
Won't
first
you help me sing?
Oh, he can sing.
Come on. These songs of freedom, 'cause all I ever had. Come on. Redemption songs. Yes, we love you, Bob. Thank you so much.
Good job. Hey, good job, Joe, right there. But I'm going to
Let's
just
give
go
Joe
here.
a round of applause.
You know, this is so special that this new documentary, the film coming out, which is so key, the tragic passing of his death from cancer, and every day's a battle. I lost a friend last year to cancer. My wife beat cancer, so it's so important to be compassionate for people with challenges. And Bob, certainly we should be compassionate for, but the film that is being made here, and I wanted you to help me, Joe, because I don't like taking pictures with glasses on. See, Bob would understand that.
Let's do this.
Right there, after 6 years at 3 different.
Absolutely.
Got it.
You know, the film, the documentary Marley, was directed by the gifted Kevin McDonald, who shows that the film is documentary prose, not poetry, but by treating Marley as a man of depth, of inner light and shadow, and that was so him. Just a man of just love, of compassion, of wisdom. And it shows among his family as well, his kids, even Ziggy, what he's done. Ziggy Marley's in the City Hall right here. Can you? In the John Ferrara Chambers, and his beautiful family, his kids. In addition, the Marley saw its world premiere at the Berlin International Film Festival and opens in Canada and several European markets in May. And whereas on April 17th, the Dome on Sunset, we were there celebrating this, held the premiere of Marley, where 4 of Bob's children, Ziggy, Karen, Robbie, and Ron, were in attendance. The film will have its release with Magnolia Films on April 20th, which it had its release on April 20th. So, therefore...
Before you say therefore, let's roll the clip right now.
Let's do it.
Right now, roll the clip. Here we go, Kenny, roll the clip. We got it right now.
All the way from Frenchtown, Jamaica. Bob Marley, come on!
Yeah, this is my identity. It is mentioned of in the Bible that there shall be a music that all people shall play and dance and sing this. What other music could that be? Reggae.
You come from such a humble beginning. My father would always take us back to Trenchtown.
Would never lock his car up. That is like saying you don't trust people.
I was the one that he would call to get women out of his dressing room. I became his guardian angel. All your parents do is smoke and play music. Nobody wanted their children around us.
The most important thing culturally that was happening in Jamaica at that time was Bob Marley exploding onto the world stage.
There was that sense that he's about to be massive.
Important if me can help plenty people. In my life is just me, my own security. Then me don't want it. My life is for people.
Are you a rich man? Do you have a lot of possessions?
Position make you rich? I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life.
Love, prosperity, beautiful, Jah, Rastafari.
Back here at the Chambers now. Joe, give a shout out. Who's in the Chambers?
You know, joining us today in Bob Marley Day is a dear friend, Steve Bing, who helped fund this documentary. Let's give him a round of applause, Steve. Thank you for your contributions to this documentary.
All right, now, Joe, this is it now. Therefore, be it resolved by adoption of this resolution, the Los Angeles City Council hereby declare August 7, 2012 as Bob Marley Day in the City of Angels.
Yeah.
And we really salute this too so much. One love. Don't worry about a thing. All right, now, here we go. I don't want to block you. You got to jump up. Here we go. We want you to picture. Joe, get on the other side.
Yes.
Hold that in right there. Get the whole family.
All right, let me go on the other side, sweetie.
Hold that right there. Hey, here we go. Are we got it comfortable? Hold that. Listen to the beautiful young lady in the back. We got everybody good. We want to move over a little bit. Let's dance this way a little bit. Here we go. We're dancing.
No, she's shy. She wants to. Yeah,
here we go. There we go. There we go. Hold the bottom of that, Joe. They'll cut you out of the picture. Okay. You got it. Right here, please. Nikki, you need a shot? All right.
And then one right down in front,
right
please.
down.
All right. Thank you.
Nick, get a good shot. Nick.
You guys need to hurry up. Mr. Labange can't suck his stomach in that
Marley
long.
right here. Let's have a hand for Ziggy Marley right now.
Yeah. I want you to know I saw you on television this morning.
Yeah, thank you. On behalf of my father and my family, I just want to say thank you very much to the council and the city of Los Angeles for this great honor. You know, we appreciate it. We have roots in LA now, so we're a part of the city, you know, so thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and your family.
Thank you. Another hand for Bob Marley Day in the City of Angels. All right, we're going to go in the back room. All right, now, we'll go in the back room, so bring the whole family.
Now that our city attorney has returned, we can begin today's council session. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alarcon, Buscaino, Cardenas, Englander, Garcetti, Weezer, Carrasco, Coin, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Zine, Wesson, 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Koretz moves, Mr. Weezer seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Labange moves, Mr. Reyes seconds.
Mr. President, today is Tuesday and now would be the time for the flag salute.
Okay, if I could ask everyone to please stand up as we salute our flag. Today we will be led by Mr. Krikorian.
You'll all please rise and join me in paying tribute to our great country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. At this time, members, let me direct your attention to today's agenda so we can go through the agenda. Madam Clerk, If we could go through the first section.
Items 1 and 2 are items noticed for public hearing. There is a request to continue item 1 for 90 days to November 6th.
Okay, without objection.
And for item 2, council should close the public hearing. The announcement of the ballot tabulation will be on Tuesday, August 14th.
Okay, any cards?
No cards.
Okay, members, so let us close the public hearing on Mr. Reyes.
I'm sorry, items 3 and 4?
We haven't gotten there yet. Okay, so does this require a vote?
No, council can do without objection, Mr. President.
Okay, so without objection. Okay, so now that moves us to the next section. I believe that's items 3 through 9.
Items 3 through 9 are items for which public hearings have been held. For item 5, the ballot tabulation results were 98.17% of the ballots cast in support and 1.83% of ballots cast in opposition. The weighted value of the supporting ballots exceeds that of those in opposition, and a majority protest was not found to exist. Therefore, council may authorize the proposed establishment of this business improvement district.
Okay, so Mr. Reyes, if I remember correctly, wanted to hold items 3 and 4.
3, 4, and 7.
And 7?
Yes.
On the Mr. Krikorian?
Call number 6, special for purposes of an amending motion, which is being distributed.
Okay. Any other specials, members? Mr. Huizar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 9 for Mr. Buscaino.
Okay. Is there anything, Madam Clerk, left to vote on?
Items 5 and 8.
Then let's prepare to vote on those items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes. And the ordinance for item 5 will be held over for 1 week unless reconsidered later in the meeting.
Do we anticipate... Yes, so I do think we'll get to 12 members in a few minutes. Okay, let's go to the next section.
Items 10 through 27 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Without objection, those items are now before us.
There's a request to continue item 22 1 week to August 14th.
Okay, without objection.
And a motion is required for item 19.
Okay, do we have cards?
Cards on items 10, 11, 14, 18, 19, and 20.
Members' specials. So it's my understanding that, well, we should hold, what item? Why don't we just hold item 17 until Mr. Buscaino's return from the back room? Again, so members, any specials? Okay, let's prepare to vote on the remaining items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, what is next, Madam Clerk?
That takes council to general public comment or items called special, or the special meeting.
Okay, now we have a special meeting that we could start as early as 10:15. Now, once we get in that, does that mean I have to complete? Okay, so we'll just leave that until we dispense with the rest of our business. Okay, that brings us to our general public comment portion of today's agenda. I will call 3 names at a time, and I expect to see 3 people prepared to speak. William Robinson, Wayne Calmer, Mervyn Evans, always a pleasure.
What order do you want them in?
You're third man.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm William Russ Boston. I'm an AIDS patient. I've had AIDS for 11 plus years, taking medicine that long, and it never feels good. It feels like I have the flu all the time, and so I'm a medical marijuana advocate. And each of you council members, as a general whole, are seemingly indifferent to the fact that maybe hundreds of thousands, I'll say thousands of people, Angelenos, are going to be deemed as criminals because of the medical marijuana use, of the propositions coming up, you know, what you voted on a couple Tuesdays ago. It's way too close to home for me. I love Los Angeles. I've been here for 40 years, and I can't bend over and allow you guys to ignore what I voted for in '96, you know. You guys have done that. You guys have fooled around too long, you know. It's way too late. You know, you're full of double standards up there, and sometimes triple standards. I get confused sometimes. And I think the brownies can do it with the meeting better than you guys sometimes. Sometimes I laugh. It's not complicated, this issue, you know. It's a little bit late. It's worse than taking a carrot from the horse's face. You know, you guys want to cut me off from my medicine, and it's going to make a lot of people suffer unnecessarily. I'm simply asking for an alternative to what you guys plan, and I don't even know what it is, you know. Compassion, what I heard Bob Marley share to me, you know, that's what I bring today, you know, and I give to my caregivers and to patients too, you know, we share that. And I also benefit from the medicine, you know, besides physiological relief from the AIDS, you know, cirrhosis, all kinds of stuff's going on with me. I get a little bit of euphoria occasionally, you know. How can you argue that, you know? And what I want to tell you in a special way, it helps me in a spiritual way. It helps my spiritual growth.
Thank you. Mr. Calmer?
Mr. Chairman, City Council members, my name is Wayne Colmer. I'm here today to appeal a brush clearance charges I was given on a property that I used to own in Chatsworth. I provided evidence that there was a foreclosure on the property and that I no longer own that portion of the property where there was a brush clearance. Somehow the county's assessor's records didn't catch up with my foreclosure, and I was assessed for brush clearance.
Mr. President, I think he's talking about item number 19.
Yeah, this is relates to general public comment. Item 19 deals with your specific concern. But so when we get to item 19, I'll afford you the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
But I will try to find the appropriate council staff to chat with you.
Thank you.
So if you could just hang around for a bit. Mr. Mervyn Evans, followed by Erwin Warshaw and Bill Huey.
Council President Wesson, I continue to thank you for your outstanding leadership, your scandal-free leadership of making Los Angeles a great city. I bring three concerns this morning. One, last week, Reverend Owens and Bishop Charles Munger urged a segment of our population to withhold their vote. It's my personal hope that the Council will demand our citizens to exercise their democratic privileges. Number two, last week, Congressman Stephen Lynch of Massachusetts promised legislation to ban oxycodone. Oxycodone is a vampire drug that has led far too many of our young people into heroin addiction. I hope you'll remind your police commission that this Class 2 drug needs better regulation here in Los Angeles. Keeping Los Angeles' young people safe from oxycodone and heroin is an absolute must. And number three, the worst insult to the voters of our state, while we're looking at a pending tax increase and while we're giving out pink slips to teachers and firemen and police officers, and several cities are going into bankruptcy, all of a sudden members of the legislature are talking about giving $30 million to the San Francisco 49ers of taxpayer money. Now, that is not corruption, that's super corruption. Once again, let me conclude and say thank you again, Mr. Wesson, for the outstanding leadership that you and the City Council are providing, scandal-free leadership. Thank you again.
Thank you. Mr. Warshaw, followed by Bill Huey, followed by Lee Glaze.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. My name is Erwin Zeke Warsaw. I'm representing a management company and a couple of LLC properties, and I wanted to just discuss being placed in REAP unjustly, and also the LAHD registration penalties, which I think are unconstitutional and a cruel and unusual punishment under the state and federal constitutions. On October the 6th, 2011, Honorable Daniel Buckley of the LA Superior Court held in a decision, Darwith versus City of Los Angeles, on page 2, that it is hereby ordered in a judge and decreed that the city does not authorize its housing department to use its ministerial provisions of the rent stabilization ordinance to force a landlord to comply with the city's building code. We purchased a property about 6 years ago that had an illegal garage conversion, and under the SCP, a year ago, they visited us and they cited us for this building code violation, and we've been having a lot of economic hardship since then. That's one thing, and I'm running out of time. The other one is the violations that we got for late payments, or alleged late payments. We asked for a copy of the postmark. They didn't give it to us. They're changing the burden of proof. We have the checks issued in January and they were mailed in December. We think it's unfair, unjust that we have to prove that we sent it. They should show and prove us that it's late. I can give you a copy of all the councilmen, these papers here, because I'm running out of time. I thank you for the opportunity to discuss this publicly, and I hope we can get some action and right the wrong ship. Thank you very much.
Next speaker.
Yeah. Good morning, Council President Reyes, and members of the LA City Council. My name is Bill Huey. I'm the president of the Fair Housing Coalition. We're an organization that believes in justice and equality under the law for landlords and renters. What they're doing to Mr. Warshaw is really unbelievable. This is what happened. He bought a property that had an illegal unit. So Building and Safety came by and looked at the illegal unit before he bought the property. He promised Building and Safety, I will not rent it out, I'll just use it for storage. He bought the property, LAHD comes by and they put him in REAP for having an illegal unit. And he says, yeah, but there's nobody living in it. I'm using it for storage. That's the terms of the purchase. They said, we don't care, we're putting you in REAP anyway. So then he mails in some payments for some fees that he has to pay, and they call him up and they said, the payments came in late, so we have to triple the fee. He says, show me the postmark. Show me the envelope, I'll pay it. Oh, we don't have the envelope. So they want him to pay late fees 300% without proving to him that the payment came in late. The LAHD is run like a criminal organization. Now, this building in question is in Councilman Rosenthal's district. Usually when I speak, he jumps up and offers to get involved. And I've brought to him many, many cases of tremendous wrongdoing. Here's a guy that's investing in LA, buying property, making housing affordable to poor people, and the city's beating him up. And the beauty of it is, the LAHD is enforcing building codes, which is out of their jurisdiction. That was ruled by a Superior Court decision in the Darwich case. And I talk to people at the LAHD and say, we don't care. We're going to do what we want. This is outrageous. If somebody in private industry operated the way LAHD does, they go to prison. We got to clean up the LAHD, and I wish somebody would step forward today and help Mr. Warsaw, because he's had his rent taken away for 2 years illegally. So if there's anybody who can speak for Councilman Rosendahl, I'd like to meet with them.
Thank you, Mr. Hui. Our next speaker is Lee Glaze and Arnold Sachs. Please come up to the microphone. Lee Glaze and Arnold Sachs. Please come on up.
Good morning, Councilperson Garcetti and ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. I saw a thing the other night on television regarding that the Council is considering to cut down our Long Beach, our LAPD, our fire department. You're screwing around with the fire department's hours, the LAPD's hours. This is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. Now, I've had to use the fire department one too many times, and anyway, it's stupid to do that. The other thing that I am having trouble with, first of all, my damn back, is that some of the streets are absolutely unacceptable, especially, you better believe it, totally unacceptable. The other night before last, I'm coming down the street just west of my street, Ivar, and I go into this cavern, whatever the heck it was. There was some place where you took out the trees, and I went right into it. My wheelchair went right over to the curb, and my wheelchair flipped out. I landed on the street, which is not exactly comfortable when you have a bad back. And this is just not acceptable any longer. You know, I'm the worst person on the planet to get, you know, get people out to vote against people who do things like that and not come to our help. So you better get them right. Pardon me, I'm in extreme pain. I'm going from here to right to Cedars-Sinai. So at any rate, Councilman Garcetti, you got to come and see me sometime, because I want to take you personally on a walk, not one of your aides, you, and see what I'm talking about, some of these streets. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. Garcetti?
You got it. I'll be happy to do so. We'll arrange to make that happen. Thank you.
Okay, we just heard the voice of Mr. Garcetti. He needs to be on the board as present. We're good. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Arnold Sachs, John Walsh, HollywoodHighland.org, and to close things out, Michael Carrion. Where's Arnold? Mr. Sachs. He's at the supervisors.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Let the record show that I was the only one last Tuesday who asked about the health of Rosendahl. Not a single one of you responded. It was the next day that we found out he had cancer, after HollywoodHighlands.org responded. I want to tell you what's going to happen. And remember, I am the medical marijuana people tell me everything. On the 6th of September, there will be a massive sit-in. This is what they are planning. They are picking 6 emergency rooms in this city geographically. They are hiring ambulances. They will produce at these emergency rooms hundreds upon hundreds of people flooding the emergency rooms. And they will flood the emergency rooms, and the entire United States will find out what's happening. And remember, it's not little Mr. Weezer that's behind this. It's the mayor of the city of Los Angeles and Barry Obama. Barry is his slave name. It's Barry Obama. And when you see what we are going to do, hundreds, there's never in the history of any emergency room in L.A. going to have as many, because you are sentencing these medical marijuana people to death. You are sentencing them to death. This is a prop. There's nothing in it. And I'm telling you right now that the mayor signed it on the down low. You know, this man, the mayor, he was born in front of a camera. He is trying to sneak this through. And remember, when you are dealing with these medical marijuana people, they have millions of dollars. Can you just see all the ambulances showing up? Can you see all of them showing up downtown at the hospital? Can you see the press? The whole world will understand what's happening. You are killing these people. You are killing them and taking their medicine away from them. And I don't smoke even tobacco. HollywoodHighlands.org. The sit-in, everybody, to the emergency rooms, September 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Michael, if you could come forward. I do not see Mr. Arnold Sachs. Michael, carry on.
The other day we were in the valley and I showed you these pictures. And much as I love you, Mr. Weston, you were mistaken. This is the property, and the fact that the thing I'm trying to make sure that you guys understand is that Mr. Reyes stated this property had already been cleaned, and it wasn't. All I asked for Mr. Reyes' office is to clean it, and he stood in front of the camera and tried to clear his name, say it was already done. Well, the proof's in the pudding. It wasn't done. As a matter of fact, gentlemen, it wasn't done till Friday afternoon while he waited to get pictures to hand out to you. All we asked for is for Mr. Reyes to do his job, which he hasn't. So I'd like Mr. Wesson to understand he stands corrected. It was done eventually. It just wasn't done when Mr. Reyes said it was done. And that was my point. I have the pictures to prove it. They're right here. As far as the statements of needles gone, that was a way off statement. You guys stated you go out there and pick up your own needles. That's hazardous. And it stood there for over a month after Mr. Reyes made the statement that there were hypodermic needles there. Shame on Mr. Reyes. He doesn't care about his community. Last but not least, a council member sitting here asked me why I had the shirt on. It wasn't 4th of July. Well, I'd like to let him know that I'm not just an American on 4th of July. I'm an American 365 days a year. I'm very patriotic. And this is why. My family members and other family members have given their lives for us to have the freedom we have. And I'd like the rest of you not to forget that, because most of your kids don't go to war.
Thank you. That completes our public comment. Madam Clerk, is that correct? I have no other public comment calls. Thank you. Let's go item number 3, I believe.
Item number 3, called special by Councilmember Reyes.
Mr. Reyes, this is our planning commissioner, correct?
Yes, this is the appointment of Mr. Dana Perlman to the Los Angeles City Planning Commission.
Good, and I'm going to hold that for just 1 second. And the next commissioner is for 4?
Item 4, yes, appointment to the Board of Building and Safety Commission.
And who would call on that? Who called that special?
Councilmember Reyes.
Got it. And we're going to get Mr. Reyes here in just a second. If I could have on item number 3, the appointee come and welcome him to the center table. Call it out, Madam Clerk. Would you call number 3 again? Thank you.
Item number 3 is appointment of Mr. Dana Perlman to the Los Angeles City Planning Commission.
Mr. Perlman, if you could join us at the center table. Right there. We got it down. Mr. Perlman, he's coming in, so we're just going to, I'm not going to. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you. I know Mr. Reyes will be talking about what happened in committee and certainly had full support of the planning committee in our council. But I wanted to speak personally about Dana Perlman, who is a great citizen, a great Angelino, somebody who has taken on, I think, one of the toughest assignments in Los Angeles, which is to be on our city planning commission, which essentially is a full contact sport, as we know. People care a lot about what goes on in their neighborhoods. We care a lot in this city about planning a better city, which we always haven't done in the past. And I think you're an eminently qualified person who is going to be a volunteer for all the folks who are watching, volunteering your own time, unpaid, hours and hours each week to make sure that the future of Los Angeles is built in a beautiful way. I know Mr. Reyes will say some comments too, but I just wanted to give you the opportunity to say a few comments about your interest in this, what you see the city looking like in terms of good planning in the future, and just want to thank you for your willingness to serve and hope that everybody will join Mr. Reyes and myself in supporting your nomination, and thank the mayor for a great nomination. Mr. Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Is now joined us here, and if you could hold Mr. Garcetti's thoughts in the back. Mr. Reyes, please.
Thank you, Council President. I was just on the phone with Councilman Rosendahl, and he's feeling better. He's struggling, but he's feeling better, and my prayers are with him. I want to thank you, Mr. Perlman. Thank you for serving the city, and I know you bring a lot of talent, a lot of experience, and the learning curve will be steep, but you can just share with us some of the approaches you're going to take in this role, knowing that perhaps you don't have the most intense land use background, but give us a sense of how you will contribute to the committee, to the commission, as you serve in this respective role.
Councilman, thank you. Councilman Garcetti and Councilman Reyes for your warm comments. As a lifelong Angelino, I look forward immensely to this task. It will be a monumental task. I got my first package this week, and there's a great deal of information to digest, a lot of acronyms. I have to learn a whole new alphabet. But I've always been a quick study. I've been practicing law for 25 years, doing a lot of real estate and corporate law, as well as a lot of work in the public sector as a volunteer, serving in a variety of capacities, including most recently on the Transportation Commission. And what I hope to bring to the Planning Commission is the perspective of someone who comes a bit from the outside, someone who is good at doing things with an analytical mind, at hearing input from a lot of disparate parts of the community. I want to hear input from around the community. I want to hear from the various planning groups, from the various neighborhood councils. I think more people need to have input. And the more buy-in we have and the more participation, the more successful we will ultimately be. I know there's a fantastic staff in the planning department. I plan on relying upon them immensely for their expertise. And I think with that and working with the existing Planning Commission, I hope that we will build a much greater Los Angeles over the future.
Well, I just want to take a moment and say thank you for your hard work. In your resume, you show an extensive range of public service, volunteerism, many organizations you've impacted. My hope is that as we continue moving forward, through an objective eye, continue to make the Commission, the Planning Department, the city more efficient in processing its developments. Time is money. It's how we can expedite these kinds of decisions to enhance our business environment while not compromising our community's priorities is significant balancing act. So look forward to working with you, sir, and I encourage an aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Mr. Koretz.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have known Dana for almost 25 years. I think we first met when he and my wife Gail worked at the same law firm quite a ways back. But I know him mostly through his work with the Human Rights Campaign and other civil rights initiatives, and I found him to be bright, articulate, and hardworking. He's done a great job on the Transportation Commission. And I know we had a chance to meet and chat. And I know he's looking forward to actually meeting with all the neighborhood councils in his area and other stakeholders and really getting to know the issues. And I think having that kind of commitment is important for this position. So I look forward to seeing your great work, and thank you for offering to take up this challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Ms. Perry.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on your appointment. One thing that is very, very important to me to understand is the level of independence that you feel that you can exercise as a commissioner. Now, the man you follow, he understood his independence as a commissioner, and obviously I thank him for his service, and his name was Mike Wu, or still is Mike Wu. But when it comes to land use in our city, this is very important. It helps the council to understand our decision-making process, that as we go through this process, that the members of the CPC will assert their independence, especially when it comes to the consideration of community as well as city interest in land use decisions. I obviously have a particular concern in the future of the USC specific plan and how that affects the community. Now, I have no doubt that there's going to continue to be major investment in projects in our city, and the USC University Village Plan is part of that. But it's important for me to know that this legacy that has already been started, that will continue to be maintained. I know you've been on the Transportation Commission, so just share with me a few of your thoughts on asserting your independence on this new commission.
Sure. I think one brief example I can give you from the year that I was on the Transportation Commission, there's been a process in place by which the rates have been set on an annual basis for non-ambulatory vehicles that came before the Commission while I was there. And this year, they were supposed to be based in part upon information gathered from the community, from the actual business owners. And The department developed it based on the protocols developed by the City Council and the mandate from the City Council, and presented it to us. And it seemed to be presented in many ways like, okay, this is how it goes, let's rubber stamp it. When I dug down into it, I found that there was really only buy-in and information from six businesses, which did not seem sufficient to me. And so we formed a subcommittee. We held additional meetings with businessmen in the community to find out why they had not given us information. And they informed us that they didn't think that it was a good the policy and the structure did not make sense because they did not have that kind of data to provide. Those questions had never been asked. My loyalty wasn't to the department, wasn't to the person who appointed me, wasn't to the council. It was to making sure that the work got done and got done efficiently and properly. And hopefully that's going to improve in the Transportation Commission, and that's what I hope to bring to the Planning Commission. But I do appreciate the reminder.
Okay, there are no more speakers on the queue. Madam Clerk, if you would please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, if we could go to our next commissioner. Congratulations, sir. So the next one would be item 4.
Yes, item 4, called special by Councilman Reyes.
Okay, Mr. Reyes.
Colleagues, we have another candidate for the Building and Safety Commission, Mr. Sipan Samsadam. I want to thank him for joining us today. He came before the committee. He hails from Councilman Zines District. I want to first acknowledge the fact that he has shared with us his background. It's a great American story. It's a great immigrant story of an individual who comes to this country, excels, and now is in a position to give back. And the spirit he has demonstrated in committee is a very positive one, a bright one, and I look forward to his talents as he takes on this role in, again, making us more business friendly. That being said, would you like to share a few words, sir?
Good morning.
Can you let us know how you see yourself contributing and perhaps what you would like to leave behind once you look in the rearview mirror as you walk away from this role?
Well, I look forward to serving the city. As far as leaving things behind, I plan to serve the city until my last breath. The city has been really great to me, and I really want to serve it the best that I can, the best of my abilities.
Can you give us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I was born in Iran in 1975. Things were a little peachy back then, and of course everyone knows about the revolution. And my dad was working in a factory. I have fond memories during that time, and of course the revolution happened, and it seemed very messy and crazy. And we had people that we were hiding in our house, and I have memories of that. And then we had moved to Spain in 1981. I picked up Spanish and got better knowledge with the European culture over there. And in 1986, I moved to Canada, picked up a little French and a strange Canadian accent, which is now not so evident. And I moved to the United States in 2001. I studied engineering in Canada, which is something that I'll also be bringing into the committee. So as far as the rules, regulations, how things work, and codes, I'll get up to speed with that. That's kind of the easier side of things for me. And I came to Los Angeles in 2001, studied my MBA at Pepperdine, and started at Valley Recycling. And been very fortunate enough. We've been working very hard at the company, and over the past 10 years, we've been working hard. The past 3 years, we've been recognized as the top 5,000 fastest growing companies in the United States. So I'll be bringing that business acumen and experience too.
Again, thank you, and I recommend an aye vote. Thank you, sir.
And it would appear that you had a very challenging life, and I think that your experiences will help the city. Your compassion for others. I'm glad that you decided to leave Canada and come to Los Angeles. So I have a feeling you're going to be okay with this vote. There are no more speakers on the queue. If we could open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, that brings us to, where's Mr. Buscaino? Mr. Buscaino, are you ready to do item 11, or do you need more time? Okay, in fact, why don't you just hold off for 1 second?
Sure.
Let's move to item 6. Mr. Krikorian, it's my understanding you have an amendment on that item?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Amending motion has been circulated. It's a technical amendment. I ask for your aye vote.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could... there's one speaker. There's no speaker? What? I don't have a speaker card. Is there somebody that's here to speak on this item? No. Okay, so let's open the roll. Wait a minute. I have no cards on item 6, Mr. Sachs. So if we could open the roll. I just found it. Arnold Sachs, come forward. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. The designated local authority, who is overseeing the designated local authority? I believe the governor appointed 3 people to oversee the CRA's transition. So do they meet on a regular basis? Do they make decisions on a regular basis? What is their input as far as running this CRA, the remnants of the CRA? And again, I believe you had over $600 million rolled over in CRA accounts. How is that being processed out? We hear so much about jobs, 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 how the construction industry is going begging for jobs, how you use different accounts for funding different projects throughout the city. You have over $600 million in CRA funds. How is that going to be used? Doesn't the public have an opportunity or a right to know? You know, you're so close vested with this public funding, yet you turn around and you say, you know what? We can't afford to spend $21,000. We're going to cut communications off from the valley to the city council. So if you have such high regard or so monetarily, financially astute to cut off $21,000 for funding for communications with the city council in the valley, what about $600 million? Somebody speak up. Hello?
Okay, Madam Clerk, let's open the roll on this item. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now we will move to item 11, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we can, we're going to show a short clip to introduce this item.
Yes, you can.
Great.
And forthwith on that item 6.
Then from there, we'll go to public comment.
What these skateboarders are doing is called bombing, a type of skateboarding for the death-defying. Speeding down hills up to 45 miles an hour, often without helmets. This YouTube video shows teens flying down 7th Street in San Pedro, blowing through stop signs. It's a common sight in San Pedro, a skateboarder's mecca due to the city's enticing hills.
Usually normal hills you go down, you're like, oh man, this feels good. The wind's blowing, your hair's like, whew. You got your hat on, you got your headphones on. You're just enjoying life. You don't want to be home.
Our camera saw it time and time again. Kids screaming down the hills of San Pedro. 18-year-old Jonathan Reedy admits he's been a hill bomber himself until it all changed one day on Western Avenue last November.
I've heard skateboarders go down that hill, but there's older people that have lived in San Pedro for many years.
We found this video on YouTube from 2008, showing a daredevil flying down that very same stretch of Western Avenue. Last November, a group including Jonathan and his 14-year-old buddy Michael Boroyevich met at this intersection of 25th and Western to try their luck at this downward plunge toward the Pacific Ocean.
I didn't have no feeling in my stomach that day saying, hey, something bad's gonna happen. We're gonna all get to the bottom and we're gonna chill at the beach down there for a little bit. And then we're gonna go all back home.
But not everyone made it home that night.
Michael was doing really well. He took off, he ducked down, he tucked, and we took off.
Jonathan was a couple of hundred feet behind his skateboarding companion when he noticed Michael losing control at 45 miles an hour.
He ended up falling and didn't end well.
Jonathan and the group gathered around Michael, who was unresponsive and bleeding on a rocky patch alongside the road. They were waiting for paramedics to respond.
I was talking to Michael, I was praying with Michael, we were all praying with Michael.
Michael Boroyevich passed away 10 days later due to severe brain trauma. Just 2 months later, a 15-year-old, Caleb Simpson from Lancaster, lost his life when he fell off his skateboard bombing down a smaller San Pedro hill. Neither Michael nor Caleb were wearing protective helmets when they hit their heads. Both died of brain injuries.
We didn't think about it. We all thought we were cool not having helmets on that day.
The tragic deaths of these young
Thank you, Mr. President. If we can turn to public comment on this item. Thank you, sir.
Wayne, I believe it's McGee. Dr. Irene James. John Walsh, HollywoodHighland.org. And Ernie Sickenberger. Yes, sir.
Good morning, council members. My name is Wayne McGee. I'm speaking on the 15.1 about bombing, but we also have what I call stunts and tricks. It's on our streets and on 254th Street. We have kids blocking the public roadways. They're bringing objects into the middle of the street. They're not moving those objects. Cars are in danger. Kids are in danger. They are definitely bluffing people to hit them. They also are promoting younger children, 3 to 6, to be out in the middle of a street with skateboards. And someone is definitely going to get very much injured. They are destroying the city property by bouncing on the curbs, the painted curbs, which is going to cost the city money to come out to paint the curbs, the crews, and etc. This needs to be stopped before someone definitely eventually get killed or the city end up in a lawsuit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Irene James? Yes, doctor.
Good morning. Good morning, President and Council members. I am a member of the Harbor City Neighborhood Council. Today with me I have many children. They come from different parts of the city. We have some children from Councilmember Buscaino's district as well as John Perry's district. They are part of the Fremont Adult School that's already defunct. But I wanted to express my support for Council Members Buscaino's proposition to ordinance, to have this skateboarding ordinance for our city. It does not affect only San Pedro or Harbor City or Wilmington, and that's why the children are here today to tell you, please vote for this. We want to save their lives. And the children here have made a commitment to show you that it is very important for them, not only for the adults, but for the children. This is for them, and that's why they're here this morning. So thank you, and we appreciate your vote in support of Councilman Buscaino's ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. And kids, thank you for coming down. And if you are going to ride a skateboard, do it at a skateboard park with a helmet. Mr. Walsh?
Reminds me of one of my classes. 25 years, LAUSD. I don't do this for a living. HollywoodHighlands.org. While this is a good motion, let's get a few things straight. It's already illegal to bomb. If they're going 45 miles an hour on a city street, they can be ticketed, okay? What this does, as it is written, is that a good kid with a skateboard crossing on the green at a crosswalk who uses the skateboard can be arrested. This is much too extreme. That no skateboard in the city of Los Angeles shall ever touch a public street is an invitation for the police to arrest just about whoever they want, just the way they arrest whoever they want, like Fred Willard when he plays with himself, but nobody else. This bill is, I'm telling you, you're going to vote it in. It will save lives. And let's remember, this thing, it's mostly a white thing, skateboarding, okay? Yes, there are Hispanics. I'll give you $100 if you can produce 100 black kids who use skateboards and bomb. You want to know why they don't do it? They're too smart and they can't afford the expensive skateboards. We're talking about skateboards, and I never thought I'd reach the point in my age, but I'm going to have to say something I never said before. What about the parents? I want to see the parents of the dead children. I want to see them here. And the blood of these children are on their parents, because it's like you bought the kid a gun to kill himself. Remember, these skateboards, these aren't the BS skateboards. These aren't the poor skateboards for minority kids. These are the rich white boy skateboards that the white parents have spent several $100s for. And, I finish, pedestrians are being killed by skateboarders who hit them. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you. Okay, Ernie? Please come forward. And take your time, man.
Thank you.
Take your time. Hold his time until he starts.
Hello, Joe. How are you? And are you fellow lawmakers? I support Councilman Buscaino's attempt to work out a common safety initiative on the coming and I support this wholeheartedly because I am a 15-year severe traumatic brain injury survivor. I worked endlessly to get to where I'm at today. I want to do my part to help those that have had injuries and are hoping to get to where I'm at today. I was able to come back from an injury that only 1% are successful from. I'm sorry.
No, Ernie, you don't have to apologize to us. You just go on.
I had to learn all the complexities of life over again after my accident. such as walking, talking, and remembering. I'm here today by the grace of God. I had 9 years of intensive rehab. This included physical therapy, speech therapy, and cognitive therapy. I had to relearn how to use my brain. But I'm just one person, and this issue is just so big and so great. In need of your support. It's for the kids. It's not for my benefit. Please help the kids. I found out that all of my painful hours in physical therapy and all the wondrous times could have been avoided if I just took enough sense to wear a helmet that was required by law. It's just very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernie. And that was a very moving statement, to say the least. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to our speakers. Ernie, I love you. For you to be here and spend your time to share your story and your success and overcoming these obstacles in your life 15 years later. Ernie is very humbled that he went to the USC, graduated business school, Marshall Business School, right? And I told him he's going to do great things to come. So thank you for being here. Colleagues, today before you, I introduced this motion almost 6 months ago in response to 2 tragic deaths in the San Pedro area as a result of reckless skateboarding, as you saw in the video clip. The first fatality occurred in November of 2011. The second occurred in January this last year. These young men were doing what kids refer to as bombing, going incredibly fast down a very steep hill. Many times they reach speed as high as 40 miles an hour. Oftentimes they don't wear helmets or protective gear as they weave in and out of traffic, skateboarding in a reckless manner. I received many calls from concerned parents and neighbors asking if there's anything the city can do to stop this dangerous activity. I spoke with the local LAPD Harbor Division, the senior lead officers, about how we can address this. And and together we talked about the city laws that are outdated, and there's not much they can do until we change the laws. This draft ordinance will fill the gap. It says that skateboarders must ride in an upright standing position, obey all traffic rules and posted speed limits, yield to traffic in the same direction, yield to vehicles at uncontrolled intersections, ride in a manner that does not pose a safety issue, and skateboarders are prohibited from riding a skateboard while attached to a motor vehicle. And I've said this, colleagues, all along. I'm not here to ban skateboarding. In fact, some of these kids and others use skateboarding as a means of mode of transportation. I'd like to bring up LAPD Harbor Area Captain Lauer to the table, and I have a couple questions for her. The first one, and she's joined by Acting Senior Lead Officer Eve White. Thank you both for being here. How will this ordinance help you address this issue of bombing in our city streets and help prevent further tragedies?
This ordinance has specificity that will be very helpful to our police officers in stopping this very, very dangerous practice. And I want to add that the rule to wear helmets is already on the books for individuals under 18 years old. We use that section, which is 21-212, A of the Vehicle Code. This will include this important ordinance will close the loopholes and allow us to help our children in the neighborhoods to be more safe.
Thank you, Captain. And Officer White, you're acting senior lead officer. Actually, you took over my position in my area. Can you explain to my colleagues the complaints that you're getting from not only the community but also neighborhood councils and businesses as well?
Absolutely, sir. Daily, I receive phone calls and emails from residents that live in the San Pedro area telling me about, they approached an intersection, they stopped at the stop sign, they checked both ways, they started to go out of nowhere. Kid came flying down the hill, and had it been a second sooner, they would have struck that child. They're deeply concerned about the safety of the other children in the city of San Pedro. The practice is getting to the point where it's out of control, and we want to do what we can to address it.
Colleagues, just last night I got a text message from my former colleague, Officer Tom Malloy, and he had to stop a couple kids because in response to a radio call, and he too was asking, what can we do to prevent this reckless skateboarding? So before you, it's my hope that this ordinance will raise awareness about the dangers of bombing and hopefully prevent further tragedies of reckless skateboarding. And colleagues, so before you, I respectfully ask for your aye vote to move forward. And the last thing I want to do is to bury another kid from reckless skateboarding in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Buscaino. Mr. Cardenas is on the queue.
Thank you very much. It's one thing for us to pass ordinances that increases and improves public safety. Certainly when it comes to the death of a child, that's something that we should always try to address as accurately and as quickly as possible, or give people the tools to make sure that we can curtail that kind of activity that leads to such tragedy. However, for example, just recently, over the last 5 years or so, I've been asking LAPD for the statistics on their truancy ticketing. And it took a while for us to get that information. And once we got that information through the incredible support of our police chief and the brass and pretty much the entire police department, our school district, which truancy has to do with getting to school, with all the partners and the people responsible for trying to make sure that we have kids in school, we were able to change that. Especially one of the things that we realized, that there was an overwhelming number of tickets that perhaps could have been avoided, and we could have done a better job of getting our reaching our goal and objective, which is to get kids in school versus giving them tickets. So I preface what I'm about to say with that because it took us a while for us to get back on the right track. My concern with this ordinance, although I support it and think that we need to make it as accurate as possible, I support the fact that we need to give our officers the tools out there in the streets to make sure that they can help thwart and curtail this very dangerous, deadly activity that not only causes harm to the skateboarder but also to other people as well. And that is the department prepared, or what does the department have to do to make sure that we can keep ongoing statistics of how this is being implemented, so we can actually understand that the spirit and the concept of the law is actually working out well, or if not, maybe we could change it and then make it better.
The types of tickets that we write citywide are tracked. So that is an issue that we would be able to track that type of citation. But I want to emphasize that unlike the truancy issue, this is a critical child safety issue. And with an infraction, it's important to note that the officers absolutely have discretion. Our officers are very familiar with the young adults who routinely violate the law and who routinely are observed going down these streets at very high and dangerous speeds. I want to emphasize to you that our officers will use very careful discretion. If it's a young adult that is skateboarding for the first time, has lost control of his or her skateboard and is tumbling down the street, that is not the type of individual that's going to get a ticket. If it's an individual that's been warned 2 or 3 times previously, that child will receive a ticket, and that is an infraction. So, and an infraction is not an issue that is going to cause a child a lifelong detriment of any kind that I'm aware of.
Thank you. And also, how much would be the base amount of the ticket? Do we have that determination yet, or that'll be developed?
I don't have that information.
Okay. Well, that's important for us to know. For example, on the truancy tickets, The base ticket was $250, but the average amount that people had to pay or families had to pay on behalf of that child, the average was well over $500 because of all the court fees and those kinds of things. So once we looked at it that way, we're thinking, wait a minute, that wasn't so much the intent, but the other half of that, above the $250, was beyond our control, right? Once we wrote the ticket, then the courts, you know, and all the state and court and all these other fees take place. So I want to make sure that the punishment fits the crime, or it's not a crime, that the actual deterrent actually is well within the balance of what we're trying to do here. So if we could have that clarification as to what that would look like, that would certainly help for us to understand how we're going to move forward. And then my last point, Mr. President, is this. I would hate for me to ever hear anybody in this city, whether it's a captain or even a council member, brag about, ever hear somebody say something like this, well, you don't have to worry about skateboarders on those streets or those sidewalks in this neighborhood, because we've actually had a council member brag about, we don't exactly have any cannabis shops in my district. And how you do that is kind of amazing, that one corner of the city can actually say that they've actually utilized the law in that fashion, when in fact it's supposed to be broad and applied equally in every community throughout the city. So that doesn't require a response. I'm just saying that I would hope, and that's why I would like us to afford ourselves the opportunity to actually see the ongoing development of how it gets implemented, so that we do it responsibly and evenly, rather than people bragging about how they really put the screws to a certain community or a certain group of kids in a certain neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much. Could I have the city attorney come up? Thank you. I appreciate your effort on this. I just wanted to know a couple of things.
Good morning.
On one of your, I think it's number 6, you talk about the prohibit being attached to a vehicle. Did we consider also the impact of people being attached to a bicycle? We see that a great deal, and although it's not what they call bombing or whatever the term is, but that is a common practice of seeing young people being towed, if not by a vehicle or attaching to a bus, but by a bicycle in the street. And so I'm wondering, is there an ability to include that as part of this ordinance?
We can certainly include that. We can amend it to include a bicycle or anything else you'd like. The vehicle code currently does prohibit certain things, certain vehicles from being attached to another vehicle. The item that was excluded, though, was skateboards. That was not specified. That's why we added this. But we can add bicycle to that.
Okay. The other thing I want to ask you, the problem we have is not this particular issue, but we get a lot of damage of people using skateboards along rails, steps, and flower bed fences. They've destroyed at least 2 of our libraries that way. Is there anything in the ordinance that can impact that activity?
Well, the ordinance speaks to public property, but the council can certainly create rules. If you're talking about public property,
yes, you
can create rules to prohibit that activity.
I mean, by the actual library, or is it something we can do beyond that? Because what like I said, a couple of places you see people using the railings that come down the step. You see them using the steps. You also, we just repaired one of our libraries, and they've just about taken all the ornaments off of the small fence where they roll down and the reflector lights. So we're just looking to see if there's anything in the ordinance can address that.
Yeah,
or is that should be another ordinance, or?
Well, it's your choice. We can amend this one to address those issues on other public property, or we can bring it back in the form of a separate ordinance to address those.
All right. Let me make a motion then and ask that we not slow this down, but that we can ask that we evaluate and look at adding bicycles as part of that number 6, and also an ordinance that deals with addressing guidelines on city property as it relates to steps, railings, flower walls, landscaping walls, those kinds of things that create so much damage.
Will say public property?
Public property, yes.
Is there a second to Mr. Mercer? Second.
Mr. Reyes.
This question for the officers. Do you feel there are enough predictable sites, locations, and would it help if we had specific signs? I know there's signs everywhere anyway, but if there's a way to point to a sign so that a young person can say, I didn't know, I wasn't aware, or to help parents, educate parents as to what happens in certain locations in the city. Would a sign help deter and or remind parents that kids are now behaving this way and it's dangerous, it's life-threatening, and by the way, it's against the law? Would that help facilitate the enforcement?
Okay. As to the education piece, I think that's very important, and I think that goes to Councilmember Cardenas's point with regard to education, so we can do some outreach at the high schools, certainly. With regard to the signage, I'd have to defer to the experts on that, given the amount of signage that is already present on the streets, or unless Senior Lead
Could we do a study, Constable Buscaino, to see if there's a sign, if there's a way to warn and trigger a sign and location without disrupting the character of the street or taking away from, some folks just don't like signs. But if we could enhance
at
the
our
safety,
existing skate parks.
You know, so it's a way to inform people, but at the specific locations where you have a tragedy, or if an officer feels that when we leave, 10 kids come back, and the property owners are intimidated by them and wants to say anything, and they can't say they didn't know because there's a sign saying this is prohibited. Is that something you would see as a friendly amendment?
Absolutely. In fact, in addition to the sign posting, our office is looking at, like they did in Newport Beach, composing a pamphlet and giving those out to street fairs, youth organizations as well, on part of that educational component piece to this ordinance.
So for the sake of clarity, because I don't have the ordinance in front of me, is the sign included when you're going to cite areas that are of concern, or is the sign not included?
The sign's not included.
Can I make
Not
that
in
a
this
friendly amendment, that they should consider the sign?
Yeah,
Get a report back
the
on
reason being is because it applies to all city streets across the city of Los Angeles.
But if there's a street that sticks out in particular, and
There is, for us, it's 19th and Western. We can post a sign there. These kids hang out, wait for the dash bus. Dash bus unloads them, and then off they go in and out of traffic. So,
but that would be a friendly amendment if you would consider that.
Thank you.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, let me just congratulate Mr. Buscaino on bringing this, because I think anybody who has driven around anywhere in Los Angeles and seen this kind of reckless behavior by some of our youth has been gravely concerned about their safety and the safety of others that they're endangering by it. And so I think this is a really critically important step that we need to be taking. And I want to thank LAPD for being here and moving this forward as well. In terms of education, first of all, I think signs and pamphlets would be good. This audience only can be educated through social networking. There is no other way that this audience communicates. And so I would really emphasize that it's important that we do, YouTube and other kinds of social networking outreach to them, as well as through the schools as well. In terms of enforcement, to Mr. Cardenas's point about punitive enforcement, I suppose, against some youth, I think that the response that the captain gave it gives me complete satisfaction that the prosecutorial discretion that will be exercised by LAPD in this, it gives me sufficient comfort that this is really going to be targeting people who are doing not just riding their skateboard around, but doing things that are terribly reckless, not only for their own sake, but, as I say, for pedestrians, for drivers who are going to be trying to avoid these folks. This is a major traffic hazard that I think LAPD will recognize appropriately. Finally, I have a question for Mr. Buscaino. I know that there was an alternative version of the ordinance that was considered by public safety that was more similar to what's done in Burbank and Glendale and I think other surrounding jurisdictions.
Yes.
We are empowered to have an outright ban on skateboard use on public streets. What are the policy considerations that you think are important in deciding between that made you believe that this alternative is better than an outright ban on skateboards in public streets altogether?
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. First and foremost, I made it clear 6 months ago that we or I don't want to ban skateboarding, plain and simple. Because again, these kids, adults use skateboarding as a mode of transportation. What the ordinance before you, and the city attorney did come back to us with an option to completely ban skateboarding in all city streets. So what this ordinance specifically does is specifies reckless skateboarding. Again, weaving in and out of traffic, abiding by all signs, rules of the road. And this is what we ask our motorists, we ask bicyclists to do the same. So we're asking those who use skateboarding as a way to get in and out from point A to point B to do it in a safe manner by abiding by the rules of the road.
Mr. Labange for a quick amendment.
Yeah, a friendly amendment, Joe. If you could have work with the Office of Public Safety's, the LA DOT, as well as police on postings just in skate shops and others and friendly reminders. And I want to thank Ernie again for coming down here in your heart right here. Just that would be an outreach necessary. And maybe say if a skateboard sold in LA, a little label on the back.
We'll definitely work with DOT on the signage, and again, that educational component is equally important. We have local skate shops throughout the city that we can work with and promote this ordinance.
Thank you. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, and I just wanted to rise briefly and thank Mr. Buscaino. As a new legislator here, this is significant not only for his district but citywide. I was interviewed this morning on the radio, kind of a wide-ranging interview, and at the end of it I was asked about this, and I pledged my strong support not only because of the author of this but because of the wisdom of the author of this. And the host of the radio show said, you know what, one of my colleagues here was an organ donor recipient, and that organ came from a skateboarder who died, bombing. So we know pedestrians have to obey the law. We know that bicyclists have to obey the law. Motorcyclists have to obey the law. Car drivers have to obey the law. This is not about being anti-skater. I was a skateboarder, proud one. It's a great sport. It's a great way of taking kids and making sure that they have a good place to be. We've been very supportive of it, I think, all around this horseshoe, but the best way to be supportive is to keep these kids alive. So I just want to thank you, Joe, for putting this forward, and thank you for, in your early time, being a great citywide legislator.
Mr. Cardenas.
I also do want to thank you as well, Councilmember Buscaino, for putting together a well-thought ordinance and advancing it so that we can actually have something in place and on the books. And yet you've only been here just over 100 days, so congratulations. But also, I want to make it very, very clear that I think it's really important for us to understand that 50, 60 years ago, the thing to build in this city was baseball fields, and we still should build baseball fields. But really what's going on today, when you look at the youth of today, what we should be building is skate parks and or facilities that accommodate that kind of activity in a safe environment where kids can play, And so it's really important that we not only advance this so that we have safer streets, we should also understand that these young people have a lot of energy. And probably most every person in this room, I don't see any kids here, but probably every person in this room wouldn't even think of riding anything like a skateboard 40+ miles an hour. It's just, we wouldn't even think about doing that. Yet we have young people who may watch it on YouTube or something, and all of a sudden there they go grabbing their skateboard looking for the tallest hill they can find so they can try it. Not smart, dangerous, it's actually deadly. Yet at the same time we need to recognize that the best thing that we could do is to pass this ordinance and make the language so that it can be accurate and effective and curtailing that deadly activity on our streets, and it saves lives. But at the same time, we cannot overlook the fact that we also have a responsibility of recognizing that we have tens and tens of thousands of kids right now who ride skateboards, and we have to figure out how to get that energy and that activity into a safe place. And unfortunately, many times it costs money. So if we could please, please, please make sure that we not forget that when we build one skate park, we're not done. We need to build many, many, many skate parks. And I also say, with all due respect, we need to build many skate parks, because in some neighborhoods, you really can't, it's not very safe in some neighborhoods that are dangerous for kids to want to traverse 10, 12, 20 blocks to get to the only skate park nearest to their home. So we had to be cognizant of that as well. We have a lot more to do and a lot more to build. And I think that that statement that I just made just does in fact have its place when it comes to this ordinance, because we need to have balance. We need to have balance. Once again, these kids have a lot of energy. Skateboarding is probably one of the things that is done more often now by teenagers than perhaps any other common activity. I was very, very surprised when my daughter, when she was about 10, was bugging me to get her a skateboard. First thing in my mind, it's too dangerous. But then again, there's my bias. My boys had skateboards when they were 10 years old. So now all of my kids ride skateboards. But at the same time, it's incumbent upon us to recognize that not too many kids, never too many, but tens of thousands of kids ride skateboards every single day. Let's do our best to pass this ordinance, very well balanced, and to make sure that we handle it properly and effectively, save lives, but at the same time, do the other things we're mandated to do, which is to find solutions for issues that face us in our communities. Thank you.
Mr. Buscaino to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it's funny that my 9-year-old son, just yesterday morning we were talking about this, and he goes, "Daddy, we just need more skate parks." So you're absolutely right, Mr. Cardenas. Thank you, colleagues, for your comments here as we move forward. I, too, want to move this item forward. And, Mr. Parks, if it's okay with you, it's important, I think, that we address this, the bicycle issue. As we know, we have existing bicycle ordinances in place that I would like to address this separately and maybe bring it back as a report back to Public Safety Committee. And I would respectfully ask that you reconsider it so we can address the bicycle component separately in a separate manner.
Separately.
Separate. Okay, fantastic. Great. So, colleagues, with that, I just know that if we send this back, it's going to delay this to move forward, and I don't want to delay this this item. So I respectfully ask you to move forward on this today, and then we can work through our Public Safety Committee to address Mr. Parks' concern about the bicycle component, towing on a bicycle by using a skateboard.
Okay, so Mr. Clerk, or Madam Clerk, what's before us? What items must we vote on?
Before Council is the Public Safety Committee report and ordinance. And also, Councilman, the amendments that were made will be made to the Public Safety report, not the ordinance.
Okay, so with that said, Madam Clerk, prepare to open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now, Madam Clerk, we have a couple of ordinances, so we have to vote number 1 on reconsideration. I want to say of items 5,
Just 5.
and 10.
10 hasn't been considered yet, Mr. President.
Excuse me?
Item 10 has not been considered
Oh,
yet.
we
by
held
Council.
item 10. So let's just vote to reconsider on item 5. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
12 ayes. Okay, with that said, now let's vote on item 5. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
And there's a
Okay.
request for that item to go forthwith.
Yes, forthwith. Mr. Reyes?
Number 7.
Oh, okay. Next, let's go to item 10. Arnold Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. Normally when I come up and speak about these property-based improvement districts, I talk about the costs and where the money is going and the fact that it's a nonprofit. But there was an article yesterday in the Press Telegram regarding a downtown business district in Long Beach. And it mentions that this business district is going to be renewed for 10 years and it will be expanded to include residents because the district renewal is necessary because the state constitution and case law suggest the district could be challenged in court if all who benefit from it aren't paying a proportionate share of services. That's why they're including residents. So it's state law, and they have to include residents. But you're not including residents in your property improvement districts. How is that? Why is that? If Long Beach finds it necessary because it's state law, why doesn't the city of LA? And should that be challenged in court, who pays?
Thank you. Okay. It's my understanding that we did have another card, Mr. City Attorney, but the individual, whatever concerns they had, were satisfied. So let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
There's a request for that item to go forthwith.
Without objection. Okay, if we could go to item 9. Yes, go ahead, Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, California's international trade sector is a powerful economic engine, not only for the city, but for the state as a whole, and is definitely key to our economic recovery. That's why I believe we need to support this item before you, AB 2656, which helps protect and grow this vitally important sector, create jobs for Californians by providing tax incentives for boosting exports and imports through California's trade gateway and for filling new cargo moving jobs in our great state. Additionally, tax credits would be awarded to those creating and filling new cargo moving jobs. AB 2656 also advances President Obama's National Export Initiative to double U.S. exports over the next 5 years. California continues to face stiff competition from other ports, as we heard. I believe last month when we had our Beat the Canal presentation. And those ports include the Gulf, the East Coast, once the widening of the Panama Canal becomes operational in 2014. Not only are these other ports investing billions of dollars in capital improvement programs, they also have put powerful tax credit incentives in place to attract trade. AB 2656 gives us the means to grow jobs over the years to come and to maintain California's competitive edge as the international trade leader of the nation. And for this reason, I urge you, colleagues, to support this item before you. Also here in attendance, I want to recognize here in supporting of this item before you, supporting AB 2656, Billy Greer, Southern California Leadership Council, thank you for being here. Wally Baker from Jobs First Alliance, thank you, Wally, for being here. Sharon Neely from SCAG, thanks, Sharon. And Jessica Duboff from the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. So with that, colleagues, I ask for your aye vote.
Oh, all right. I wondered why Billy was here. So I'm glad to know that you just, didn't have anything to do and you just figured you'd come and sit for a few hours. But it's my understanding, Mr. Buscaino, that Jessica Duboff was going to speak. Is that? No. She's saying no. All right. I like you. Okay. Let's prepare to vote on this item. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Reyes, you held item 7.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, this is one of those timely efforts that speaks to how we become much more efficient and streamlining our projects, our construction projects through the city's process. We thank Councilman Garcetti. Back a few years ago, along with Gail Goldberg, the 12-2 program emerged, And we had a lot of tough lessons. And with the stewardship of Mayor Villaraigosa and his staff, along with Councilman Garcetti, and we were able to work with the departments and identify a path forward that allows us to bring together the departments. I got to tell you, the departments themselves have stepped up. They've identified the silos that keep them separate. This action will allow us access to the Construction Trust Fund to move in a direction where we have consultants to actually streamline and make us much more business friendly. For example, some departments have repetitive actions when we look at our planning process. We have repetitive actions and cycles that essentially are redundant in different departments. So how we begin to look at one number for one project, have it on a screen, and have the customer or our constituent track a project and have each department be accountable, because we will know where that project is sitting. If it's sitting in Department of Engineering or Transportation or Planning, we will know through this process. So they will be assessing what we have right now in our technology. They will be promoting different policy changes, restructuring the organizational elements of these departments so we can actually be able to use our technology to be much more predictable and hold our city family accountable as to why projects get stuck in different parts of the city. So I want to reiterate the teamwork that occurred here. Again, I want to thank my colleague for pushing this back when we started. We're finally at a place where we can turn the corner and expect some good responses, constructive responses that allows us to expedite this. So I ask for an aye vote to get going in this very important aspect of making ourselves business friendly and, again, much more predictable in the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Let me thank by highlighting Mr. Reyes's work to streamline development. He understands that jobs are linked to how well we're able to do our jobs, and this wouldn't have moved forward today without his leadership, and appreciate how he has kept his eye on the prize, not just in his own district, but citywide. So thank you, Mr. Reyes, for that and bring this about today. You know, the 12-2 initiative was something, actually, thank you for the credit, but actually came to me from a gentleman named Mott Smith, who's done a lot of innovative planning work and transportation work. He's worked with us on all sorts of interesting projects over the year. And at UCLA, about 6 or 7 years ago, he came to me and said, you know, we have up to 12 departments, and some studies say it's even more, that a person has to go through, whether sometimes it's a home, whether it's opening a new business, whether it's doing a agreed-upon development. And we wonder why Los Angeles has 165,000 fewer jobs and 800,000 more people over the last 30 years. I think a part of it is that we've created a culture which, instead of rewarding our incredible employees for getting businesses open, getting them open quickly, creating jobs, instead we put the emphasis, all of us can share credit for this culture, unfortunately, of how many fines do you bring in, how many violations, how can you protect your piece of the bureaucracy. Today, we see our city employees stepping up to do different, and I want to thank those who have been a part of this. The mayor joined this vision, and we did a press conference quite a few years ago on 12-2, and then he assigned this project, though it languished for quite some time, to Deputy Mayor Austin Buettner, Chief Deputy Mayor Austin Buettner, and under his leadership and folks in his office moved this forward, now under Matt Carrott's able hands. But I especially want to thank Rafi Aldaljian, who is in the mayor's office and really helped make this day come about. But it wouldn't have come about were it not for those great engineers, systems process people who said, let's do this inside our departments, building and safety, engineering, transportation, planning, etc. So what is it exactly that we're doing here today? Well, among other things, folks, what we are doing is moving our plan check from something in which an architect now prints out, literally, by the end of a project, about $40,000 to $80,000 worth of paper. And every single edit, it has to go through each of these 12 departments, and any one department can hold on to it for too long, almost killing the project or adding cost to it. Any change that's made, it goes back to the architect or the person who's doing this. They make the changes and print it out, again, only for the city. This would move us towards electronic plan check. Some smaller cities have adopted already in Santa Monica and Beverly Hills, but essentially you can cut these 12 departments down to a single send, and it goes to all 12 simultaneously without having to pay money and waste paper. It doesn't need to be printed out, but you can make those changes. For instance, if an architect or an engineer missed an air duct, that can be added and sent back to the city. And simultaneously, we can have transportation, engineering, planning, building and safety, looking at the plans at the same time. And hopefully one day this will also be something for the public to be able to follow these plans. And let me close with this. We need jobs in this city, and this is one of the most important things we can do in making jobs move forward. I was meeting with the head of 7-Eleven for the Western region, and he said, we're going to do 80-something new stores in Southern California, but we don't know if we'll do any of them in the city of Los Angeles. And when I asked him why, he said, it takes us so long to get one opened here. And I said, how long? On average, he said, about a year and a half. When I said, give us a good idea of a competitor, he said, well, recently we did one in 6 months in, of all places, Santa Barbara. If Santa Barbara is 3 times quicker than us, we have our work cut out. And I want to praise those city employees who are stepping up to say it is time to bring technology forward. It's time to have a single portal instead of 12 or 13 or 14 of them to get our jobs done. And when there's agreement in a neighborhood, when there's agreement around this horseshoe that a project should move forward, it is time for us to get out of the way and make sure that that happens as quickly as possible. So with that, Mr. Reyes and I ask for your aye vote, and let's put this to work now.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Huizar.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to thank everyone who brought this forward and made this possible. And this is, as both the previous speakers mentioned, a long time coming. And really, of all the development efforts that we've been talking about, unless our departments are talking to each other in a efficient manner in the same language, none of the development efforts to cut down the red tape would be possible. And like Councilmember Garcetti mentioned, all our 12 departments will now be on the same tracking system, which is going to make it a lot easier. And this came about, although a lot of folks in the past have been pushing this, last year the Mayor's Office put forward the Development Reform Strategic Plan. And this is central to that, because all the other efforts from that plan, you cannot move forward unless all the departments are talking to each other and tracking the same system. So it's key to that. This is a long time coming. I think overall, as Councilman Garcetti mentioned, it's not only good for the developers themselves or people who want to start up a business in the city of LA, but it's good to create more jobs and ensure that we are not holding back the economic potential that the city of Los Angeles has. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No other speakers on the queue. Madam Clerk, open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Forthwith on that one. Let's have the next item would be called.
Item 14, call special for cards.
Call Mr. Walsh.
This is the item I came down to speak on. 14, receiving and filing a request to extend the contract of LAPD with the Oak Tree Gun Club. Everybody's watching me, 60,000 of you. Go Google Oak Tree Gun Club and take a look at what this gun club does. It has evening rifle ranges. It has a set that sells guns. It says right here that non-stock items, instant pricing, pistol range, rifle range. We have the blood of the Sikh people on our hands. America's out of control. And what do you politically correct liberals do? That's what makes me vomitous about you. I don't mind Zion. You now sign an agreement with a gun club. I hope no psychotics are watching. I hope no psychotics are going to go running to the gun club. But I want everybody in America to know that the Oak Tree Gun Club has the blessing of LAPD, and you, not a damn one of you is going to say a word because you believe the Oak Tree Gun Club should be involved. The LAPD's seal of approval on the Oak Tree Gun Club. Look at the agenda item, and I have no malice about the Oak Tree Gun Club. I just think you should separate yourself. Now, if our cancer victim was here, he would speak against this, but he's gone. So all of you, pistol-packing L.A., I just want America to know that maybe the next shootout is going to occur in California and maybe in Los Angeles because of the attitude of the LAPD and the attitude of City Council. This will be at HollywoodHighlands.org.
Mr. Garcetti, please.
I know Mr. Englander isn't here, but Madam City Clerk, this is a receive and file, meaning that there will be no action taken on this. This is just to receive and file this. Is that correct?
Yes, the recommendation is receive and
Okay.
file.
Thank you. And I want to thank all the colleagues for some of the first and toughest legislation on, including this year, on not only handguns but ammunition as well.
Thank you for that clarification on the receive and file. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item.
Next item is item 17, call special for Councilmember Buscaino.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to send this item back to committee for further discussion per the police department and okayed by the chair, Mr. Englander. You want to call him?
Yeah. Joe, tell me that again.
Again, we want to send this item back to committee for further discussion.
No problem. Send it back to committee. So ordered. Next item.
And that item will be referred back to the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you very much. Next item.
Next item is item 18, call special for cards.
Arnold Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. Just a question. The maximum compensation of $18 million for services that you're going to agree to on this contract are to be paid by the Proposition Q general obligation bonds. So when you present these obligation bonds, how do you confer this information onto the public? Do you mention to the public when you're going to approve these bonds that a certain percentage of the bond money is to be allocated for contracts with management, construction, build, design, construction? How much of this funding of these bonds, because we see this in the school board and the school district funds, that the first ones paid are not for the projects, it's the people that do the management. How much and how do you decide, and when did it behoove you to tell the public about this funding source?
Thank you. No speakers on the queue. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote. Next item.
12 ayes.
Item 19, item 20, excuse me, call special for cards.
22.
20.
20. Thank you. John Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. And you do an excellent job also, Mr. Labange, Councilman Labange, running these meetings. This will be my 5 minutes for this meeting, but there's a special meeting I have 2 minutes on coming up. This concerns Slash and the Hollywood Walk of Fame. They do a good job, but the Hollywood Walk of Fame is an absolute disgrace. It is falling apart. Their stars have been torn apart. There's absolutely no upkeep on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. This is little Ricky over here, Mr. Garcetti. He says it's wonderful. I am going to put the 10 worst kept stars, the 10 that have an SOS and need to be fixed. They're torn apart, they're falling apart, and all the Historic Trust is interested in is voting them salaries, their salaries. HollywoodHighlands.org. Good luck to Slash.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you. And actually, Mr. Walsh and I agree on that. Thank you. Your help as well, Mr. Labange, in raising close to over $1 million. The MTA, which Mr. Walsh and I think we both agree have caused quite a bit of damage along the sidewalks there, agreed to pay some money. We've raised some through private and some through city and county to continue to fix up the Walk of Fame. Today, adding Slash to the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Mr. Huizar asked, have we ever voted against any of these stars before? And I let him know that there was that one time 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I voted against Rodney Dangerfield. I think I was the lone vote, but I thought somebody should show him no respect.
No other speakers on the queue. Let us prepare to vote. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, that brings us to item 19. Mr. Buscaino. There are cards on 19?
Yeah, I'll take cards first, sir.
Jose and Anna, I can't figure out if there's a last name. Silver Discounts Property. Hosang Shohet.
Orellana, sir.
Okay, sir, go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Jose Orellana. I'm here because the fire department in Los Angeles, it charged me for a process that I already did in my property. Property was cleaned in April 25th, and Los Angeles Fire Department claimed that they cleaned it in July, and that process it was already done. They just actually just charged me for it when it was not necessary for the service, and besides, they charged me just for administration fee, $938, which I think is very accessible for the amount and process that wasn't needed. That's it.
Okay, next.
Hushain Shohet.
Yes, sir. Identify yourself and speak.
Hushain Shohet. I have some concern for the billing from the City of LA as for the fire brush clearance. The property that I own, it was cleared. I have pictures on it, and I went to the hearing officer, but there are certain discrepancy on the claim that the contractor presented the bill and pictures to the city. The pictures are showing 3 sets of them before, after, and during the cleanup that they did on my project, on my property that was cleaned by myself before that on September the 5th of 2011. But I'm noting the pictures that the contractor provided to the city. It shows the date of September 10 as during, and September 10 again and after. But on the bottom of the picture shows various dates of like September the 14 and September the 8 and September the 10. And this property was cleared by myself on the September the 5th, and I have all the picture and sets and everything that I could give to the Captain Knight of the Fire Brush Clearance Unit for his review and looking at it. But in addition, the report that they came in from the hearing officer stated that they have sent the notice to me and it was never returned, but I have 2 copies of it that I received from the City Brush Clearance Unit that has both the assessment as well as the notices are sent to the wrong address. I have those as well. And there was one other issue that the property is about half acre in size, 300 feet in length and 75 feet in width. And the requirement of 200 feet of clearance was done for across all of the property to the neighboring houses, and the south of the property is a river, and I have done all the clearance as the required.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Wayne Comer. I started to speak earlier. My property, I was assessed for a property that I no longer own. The property that I was assessed for was parcel 272305049. It was bifurcated by our foreclosure in June of 2011. The assessor's rolls were finally updated sometime within the last month or so and split into 2 parcels. Parcel 050 and 051. I retain ownership of parcel 051, and the brush clearance was done on parcel 050. So I'm requesting that you cancel the brush clearance that was put in my name, Wayne Comer, on the original parcel 049. Thank you.
Okay, now did you have an opportunity to chat with your council office?
No, I did not talk to the council office about this.
Or one of their staff?
No, I did not.
Okay, so I think we have Mr. Englander's representative from his office here. If you could go and talk with Mr. Colmer.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. Also here before us is Captain Knight, Fire Department. What I would like to do on behalf of Councilmember Englander, Chairs Public Safety, I'd like to make a technical amendment to recommendation number 2 on this item before you. For parcel number 203-202-5036, have administrative fees read $0, and total assessment read $555. In addition, for parcel number 545-201-8001, have all costs read $0. And if we can, upon approval, send this item forthwith. Thank you.
Okay, there are no speakers in the queue, but did you want to say something? Or are you good?
I think we're good. Yeah.
Okay.
Fire department is okay.
And if we could get someone to chat with these two gentlemen.
Do we have Captain Knight if you want
I'll make that
address it? Thank you, sir.
I didn't hear what area your property was in. Oh, then all of you should be over there with Mr. Colmer, and you should express your concerns to the representative from the council person. So I would recommend that you get on over there. Okay, no speakers on the queue. Let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Forthwith, without objection.
Also,
yes.
Items 11 and 15 forthwith, please, Mr. President.
I think we did that. Okay. If not, we'll double forthwith it. Okay. Is there any additional business, Madam Clerk, before this body?
The special meeting, Mr. President.
Okay, let's go into the special meeting. I had forgotten all about that.
Mr. President, do you wish to recess the regular and begin the special meeting?
Yeah, let's recess, and then we'll go into item 28. It's a closed session item, Mr. City Attorney. So
I believe there's cards, Mr. President.
okay, there are cards.
Oh, no. Oh, excuse me, President. Let me call the roll first. Alarcon, Buscaino, Cardenas, Engler, Garcetti, Weezer, Carrasco, Corian, LaBonge, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Zine, Weston, 12 members present, a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, I have a card from Mr. John Walsh. If the other members from the public could begin to exit the council chambers. Mr. Walsh, before you speak, our city attorney has to make a statement.
Yes, just to further describe the closed session, as described in our report, the significant exposure to litigation against the city is pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9B3C, and it stems from 2 written communications received from potential plaintiffs threatening litigation. The first written communication is dated April 26th to Miguel Santana, CAO's office, from Michael Weinstein, President, AIDS Healthcare Foundation. The second written communication is an email communication to the CAO's office on May 11th, 2012, from Alan Gelbard.
Okay, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. You know, you did a much better job than the supervisors on the scumbag issue. You did it. We don't have to have a scumbag vote. Now the county has to vote on scumbags. Here, we've got a perfect scumbag policy. Speaking as for myself, I don't think you're going to be sued by anybody. Okay? The pornmeisters aren't going to spend that money. And I'd like to point out, we have something ironic here. I'd like to close HollywoodHighlands.org, because now gay sex has been decriminalized and smoking marijuana has been criminalized. This is extraordinary. So I want to warn everybody out there who's watching me because of this criminalization and decriminalization. If you have a joint in your mouth and you don't want to be arrested, you better make sure that there are 2 testicles on your chin.
All righty then. Okay, if we could clear the chambers, sergeants. If we could please clear the council chambers. Come on, Johnson, do your job. I see you over there talking to the curtains. So we will adjourn once we are back. Okay, so now we will adjourn the special meeting and return to our regular meeting. Is there any more business before this council where it relates to our regular meeting?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
They are posted and referred.
That clears the desk.
Okay, announcements, members. Mr. Buscaino.
Today, colleagues, is National Night Out, and I encourage and invite all of my residents in CD15 to join me at the Watts National Night Out at Southeast Division, Harbor Gateway National Night Out at 186th Street School. I'll also be at the Wilmington National Night Out, the Bannings Landing, in addition to the San Pedro National Night Out, where we're closed tonight's festivities at the New Harvest Church at 18th and Mesa in San Pedro. Thank you.
Okay, other announcements? Mr. Reyes?
We have several national night outs as well in District 1 in Cypress Park, over in Rampart, Olympic Station, and I have 6 divisions, but I know I'll be on at least those 3 for sure.
Okay, I think all of us, there are going to be national night outs throughout the city of Los Angeles. Any more announcements, Mr. Adjourning? Any more announcements? Okay, if everyone in the council chambers could please rise for adjourning motions. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think all of us were horrified and saddened to see the news coming out of Milwaukee and the loss of 6 Americans, Sikh Americans. For those who know the Sikh community here, who have spent time in Mr. Labange's district, the Gurdwara, and who have spent time throughout Southern California with the tens of thousands, if not over 100,000 Sikhs that live amongst us. This was a brazen act of terrorism and of terror. I'd like to adjourn in memory of 6 incredible individuals who perished. Some are still in critical condition beyond this, but let's hope that it is just these 6: Sita Singh, Parkash Singh, Ranjit Singh, Satwant Singh Kaleka, Subeg Singh, and Parmjit Kaur. For those who know the religion, it is one of the great world religions and one of great peace. It's one in which both women and men are seen as equal under the eyes of God, one in which the stories that we hear, some of these individuals lost their lives, including the priest, the assistant priest, and the head of the congregation, in shielding some of their fellow congregants from the bullets that came before them. May their souls be in heaven, and may they all rest in peace.
Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, colleagues. Today I'd like to adjourn in memory of Raymond Henry Patricio, who passed away peacefully on Tuesday, July 31st at the age of 89. Ray was born in Sausalito, California on July 1st, 1923, and moved to San Pedro in 1928 and lived there his entire life. Ray attended Barton Hill Elementary School, Dana Middle School, and then off to San Pedro High School. As a young man, he fought in the Pacific during World War II and was decorated for his courageous acts. Upon his return, Ray began working as a longshoreman and continued there until he retired in 1988. He was a proud member of both ILW 13 and ILW 94. In his later years, he was a member of the Peck Park Advisory Board. He was known as the Goat Man, and elected to the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council. His efforts were the key to the development of the Peck Park Canyon that Ms. Perry helped with Prop O funds and was there at the opening. Ray was preceded in death by his wife of 53 years, Lola, his brothers Bill and Fred, son Michael, son-in-law Peter. He is survived by his sister Lucille, sons James and Paul, daughters Frances, Catherine, and Rianne, grandchildren and great-granddaughters. I was joined yesterday at his memorial service with Congresswoman Janice Hahn, and just a great tribute to Ray and his family and his friends. He was a modeled husband, father, community leader, just a hard worker. It was great to be there yesterday to join the community and to recognize and celebrate his life. May Ray Patricio rest in peace. Thank you.
Richard, did you have one as well? Mr. Weezar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I ask that we adjourn in the memory of Luis Angel Cheater Villanueva on August 3rd at 2:25 a.m., a longtime resident of El Sereno. Luis Angel Cheater Villanueva passed away at the age of 60. Luis was a 48-year resident of El Sereno and a dedicated coach and volunteer at El Sereno Recreation Center since 1986. His dedication and commitment to El Sereno Recreation Center led to his employment with the Department of Recreation and Parks in 1998. Since then, Cheater has spent countless hours maintaining and preparing the fields at the park for many, many years, ensuring that the safety and enjoyment of all who played there kept on while he was there. Luis was a loving husband to Martha Villanueva and father of 3 children, Jesus, Mario, and Adriana. He lost his eldest son, Jesus, in March of 2008 to an aneurysm. He also leaves behind 5 grandchildren. He'll be missed by his friends and loved ones, and especially those people who saw him around the El Sereno Park.
Mr. Labange.
Yeah, members, I ask we adjourn in memory of Garrett Reed, 29-year-old son of Tammy and Andy Reed. Andy Reed, a native son of Los Angeles, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, lost his son tragically. Garrett Reed, 29 years old.
Yes. Okay, any more? Okay, with that said, this meeting is adjourned.